Scanning for audio.
For the Tin Dog Podcast. Yes, as the sounds of John Barrowman singing the lovely song from the producer's movie fades into the distance, we can begin our review of Categories of Life. Torchwood, Episode 5. Yes, I've opened with Springtime for Hitler. Now, let's get some things straight off the bat that we can just discuss, and then we can move along and not have to think about it. Nazis are bad. Nazis are bad. Just going along with society isn't always a good thing. Okay, there's some lovely little hints and tips there to lead your life by. When I was at school, I had a passion for history, so much so that I didn't really consider taking it too much further as a subject, because it was so much part of who I was. Now, imagine the scene. We're all sitting around talking about the rise of the Third Reich, the way you do when you're at school. And the teacher's at the front, a marvellously passionate woman about history, and she's talking away, and she asks everyone in the class, what would we do if we were in the war? And she asks one kid, and one kid says, well, I would become a freedom fighter and go underground and fight. And some other people say I'd run away so that I could be part of, a different country or something like that. Slightly more logical solution on an answer. But then she comes to me, and I said I probably would have just joined the party and kept my head down. And she says, why? I said, because I just want to keep my head down and be ignored. I don't want to believe in anything, because I don't believe in any of that. But what I do believe is just getting on with life, fitting in, and not causing too much of a stir. Because if you cause a stir, you ended up dead. And at that point she turned to me and she said, you understand history. Because history isn't about the past, it's about the present. It's about mistakes and not mistakes and learning about it. And I think that's what Russell was getting at with this. And that's what these people are doing, because yes, we know it's the classic axiom. All that evil needs is for good people to do nothing. And that's what's happening here. Now, I also have a small rant. Yes, this episode is, and I know it was disturbing, and I know it was lots of things, but it's still padding. As a member of the audience, I've seen the cause. No. I have seen the event happen, Miracle Day. And I'm interested in knowing why it's happened, who's behind it, and how it can be stopped. All of those things will happen in episodes 8, 9 and 10. Possibly just episode 10. Especially the way Russell works. Okay, that's perfectly acceptable. Because those things are revelations and they happen at the end of the story. Yes, we'll get back to the word revelation in a minute. So, in the journey from A to B, deep down, I'm only interested in A and B. The journey, which is, life, it's the effect of Miracle Day that's happening on society, how everyone copes with it, how everyone deals with it, how everyone moves on. Yeah, I get that, except, well, that's not kind of important. It's the gorgeous assistant to the magician, when all I want to watch is the magician. It's the distraction, and that's what we're sitting through. Yes, Nazis are bad. Yes, we're becoming right-wing. Yes, we're trying to deal with a solution. Yes, burning people, probably not a very good idea because people are tremendously alive and you end up with dust that could become alive. Now, in a Doctor Who universe, that's probably the case. But in a Torchwood universe, it's probably just dust. They've got rid of people who aren't consumers, which leads me more to believing that it's more of a company gone mad with power. Yes, the logical solution from this next stage is that people get a certain amount of life allocated to them, say 70 years and 10, and then they have to report to a module to be relieved so that the pressure is kept off the world. Eventually, of course, if you develop those and take it to the next step beyond that, we end up with a population reduction policy so that all of the resources that are the planet Earth can be used by the surviving and ruling masses. You end up with a working class who keep everything running and who are allowed to live as long as they're useful, and a ruling class, members of FICOR, who rule the entire planet and are kept as their masters. Literally a master race, I guess. But that would be too, well, not Torchwoody enough. Does that make sense? There's been no aliens. And perhaps I'm just hanging around, like I said. I mean, I was emailed by someone this week and said, it's nice to see that the BBC have adopted the pacing of a William Hartnell Doctor Who story. And yes, Torchwood is coming across as, let's be polite here, a touch slow. Because that's what we're waiting for. We're waiting for the solution. We're waiting for the answers. And they're not coming. Dear me, what a shame. Never mind. Yes, I've got a page full of notes, and yes, I should be working my way through them. Yes, this is another week of padding, followed by another week of padding, and no doubt next week and the week after are weeks of padding, where we'll be fed little tidbits of plot and possibility. But basically it's padding. Yes, we get little hints of puzzles, but we should move on. Now, Russell, and I'm looking at you, you've got a lovely magpie relationship too. Well, let's face it, you're an atheist, so you can go through all of the mythologies of the world and go, oh, I'll have that 333 from the Quran, and that'll be in the end of days, and we'll stick that on the top of an ambulance, and nobody will understand that, and we'll have the woman in red, she can be the whore of Babylon, but not quite, although perhaps she is, because is Babylon just everyone wanting to speak to each other, and she's in PR, which is everyone wanting to speak to the world, so perhaps she is, but perhaps she'll change her sides, and her character development's all over the place to begin with. Yes, we've dealt with all this before. We dealt with all this in Turn Left in Doctor Who, where Wilf knew that the camps were coming, and the guy went off. Because every time in Russell's world that we face a problem, we end up with camps to get rid of people. Well, that's not quite true. Can we not rise to the occasion and win? I guess not. Does the world, without the Doctor, default to having Nazi tendencies? Or is he just mining his own little idea well again? So, is the dust still alive? I'm thinking no. If it was Doctor Who, I'm thinking yes, but it's not. It's Torchwood. That's fine. Logic dictates the whole situation of life. That's fine. Again, it's all dressing. Oh, and a tiny little thing, as well as the motion blur, which was still there this week, and yes, I feel I'm the only person who can see this. Am I? Please, somebody email me and tell me that they can see motion blur as well. Sorry, moving on. The category system. Let's just examine that for a few minutes before I move on. Category 1, the people who can't be helped, the apparently dead. Category 2, getting better. Category 3, everyone else. Quick question. Can people in wheelchairs now walk? Because the woman who had her neck broken could walk. People are getting better, and they are, to quote Jack, more alive than they've ever been. So does that mean that irreparable cell damage is now repairing themselves, or does damage that happened before Miracle Day still affect everyone? You've not seen anyone in a wheelchair. Does that matter? I don't know. The answer is A, yes. The answer is B, damage done pre-Miracle still stands, or C, Raw TD didn't question this and let's not think about it and move on. Answer's probably C. Right. I'm sorry, but this is not the longest of reviews, but basically there's a whole Nazi thing. The smoke from the chimneys, yes, it sent a shiver down my spine. Yes, it was touching. Yes, it was moving. Yes, Russell obviously stood everyone up and went, right, any characters who aren't needed to develop the plot anymore, put your hand up. Yes, Doctor, you stand up. Now, have you developed an emotional contact and link with another character so everyone will feel lost when you go? Yes, still standing. Marvellous. Do you have any more need to be in Torchwood? No. Brilliant. Could you just, join this queue over here? Yes, Category 1 queue. That's marvellous. You do get the feeling that that's what they did at the writers' meeting. It came as a surprise they killed her off, in many respects, and that's what the purpose was. So let's move on. One thing that did stick out, and perhaps the most disturbing thing in this whole episode, was the bloke who ran the medical facility. What a lunatic. You totally bought his performance. He was brilliant. If he doesn't get his comeuppance, that's just bad scripting and bad plotting. Oh, another thing. The assassin from last week, the one who you could interrogate using a pen and get him to write things down. Did we just forget about him? Yeah, I think we did. Moving on. Right. This is the halfway point. The human race is coming out of this badly. No surprise there, then. And I'm going to fade away so I can watch episodes 6 and 7 and Day of the Daleks and review them all for you very, very soon. And remember, only following orders isn't quite the excuse it could be. Be seeing you. You have been listening to the Tin Dog Podcast. Doctor Who and its associated shows are all trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Contact us at tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk.